Hey, I'm Nini, and welcome to Creative Angles, the podcast for creatives by creatives. Join us as we talk to people active in the ever-expanding world of the arts in an effort to both inform and inspire. And we're rolling! Hello everyone and welcome to another episode of Creative Angles. I'm your host Nini and today I'm here with voice actor Robin Nelson. Robin, welcome to the podcast.
It's great to be here.
Thank you. Would you call yourself a voice actor or is there another word you would prefer for your full scope of creative endeavors?
No, definitely not any single word that would cover everything that I do, but voice
Right.
actor's just been the number one thing for a long time now.
Right. Because you've been doing this for how long exactly?
Exactly is a little fuzzy. I want to say since I was 14. I'm almost 30
Ooh.
now, so it's been a long time that I've been doing it.
Half your
Non-professionally and
life. Wow.
professionally. Yeah, it's been a long time, so like 13 years or something at this point.
Wow. How did you start out?
Well, everything started in middle school for me because I sounded like this in middle
Right.
school at that age. So, in English class, when we're reading books aloud, as I guess we were required to, they would all want me to do it, either because they were lazy or just because I could read at a normal speed and,
Right.
sounded better, I suppose. But that's where everything made me curious.
Right. And then what did you do after that? Did you pick up a YouTube gig originally or something?
Well, I mean, I found an interest in it as an art form, I guess, after seeing a movie. I think it was The Fantastic Mr. Fox or Fantastic Mr. Fox,
Ooh.
not the. And I was like, oh, this seems interesting. I should look more into this. What could I do? And at the same time, around that time, I thought YouTube's kind of interesting.
Right.
I wonder if there's a future there to be had. It would take a few more years for me to find people that were making stuff that I could voice act in,
Mhm.
Minecraft machinimas and whatnot. And some of the earliest stuff I've ever been in does still exist online. They're just Minecraft videos.
Minecraft videos.
Yeah, they're just old Minecraft machinimas. I think two of them
Oh,
are
right.
fake Minecraft movie trailers. We almost predicted.
Right.
At one
I was
point,
about
yeah,
to
the
say,
movie.
the actual final product reminds me a lot of the machinimas people used to make. So that's kind of funny how
Yeah.
that turned out.
Yeah.
I remember very vaguely, were you did Gmod type content at one point as well, right?
Oh yeah, we for a couple years straight we're doing fun Gmod stuff. That goes back to I think early 2015 is when we were all gonna shoot a machinima together in Gmod, and I thought, well, we're having a lot of fun just messing around waiting for someone to set up a camera for us to get a shot. Why don't we
Right.
record some of this? And initially people were the friend group was like, there's not really much direction with that. We shouldn't do that. But then we started doing it anyway, and people really liked that. And the next thing you know, several years later, we're being chased by PNGs of random characters and screaming. And we did a lot of Gmod stuff. So
Would you say that the more whimsical start of content creation did help you figure out what you wanted to do down the line?
yeah, I would say so. It's a lot less restrictive. I mean, when creating those goofy, silly videos, I mean, along the way, of course, there were plenty more things for me to perform in, I guess. I guess it helps you find a direction. I like doing very silly stuff, and it helped me sort of realize I prefer doing character work vocally more so than I mean, I do a lot of narration and voice over, which is a little different from voice acting, and I like that, but it's much more fun when I get to, voice someone weird in an animation or something like that, or a machinima or whatever.
Yeah.
I'll still do all that fun stuff, but it really helps you sort of, or help me at least, pick kind of a direction that I would love to go, even if it is more difficult a road.
Right, I can imagine. So what was it like then when you made the switch to being a video game voice actor initially?
Well, that was purely by accident. I mean, I always had a bucket list. I mean, I think everybody that does any sort of performing art, they have a bucket list. I want to do this, I want to do that. And for me, my little bucket list was I want to have my voice in a toy or a plushie, be a part of a video game, maybe be in a big movie, stuff like that. I had it on the list, but I didn't know it was coming my way at the time at all. Because I was just asked to by a couple of folks that worked with a studio that I had done some Foxy voice work for.
Oh, right. I forgot they do that. Yeah, I forgot. I keep forgetting that they're the same thing. Right. So it was like a networking result, you would say? Fancy term.
For sure on that. I don't know why they thought of me for, in this instance, Poppy Playtime or Leith Pierre. He's not the main baddie. I don't really know what he is at this point. Maybe he gets to be the main bad guy at some point. Right. I don't know why they thought of me initially, because the voice I was giving them exclusively up until that point was very weird and high-pitched and silly, when they thought, well, let's get this guy to be the scariest dude in the whole game, I guess. They just asked me.
Right.
So I thought, yeah, okay, I can do that. Sure.
Neat. Yeah, it's because I can imagine a lot of starters or younger people might be really, really confused how people get their, gigs or where they start at all. So hearing that it comes in your case from like a bit of a networking origin is probably pretty enlightening for those people, I can imagine. It
helps demystify some stuff, I guess. Not everything is gonna fall into your lap, and that's absolutely like I fell into a bit of a rut that way for a while, where I just wasn't looking for anything. I was just hoping that someone would come and ask me to do something, which is not how it works. That will happen a couple times, but you can't rely on that, obviously.
Did you have like something on the side, like, and next to your more creative like endeavors, like to make money with?
So my main job for the past almost 5 years now, actually, has been narration for a Reddit channel called Emkay.
Right.
So that's what almost the entirety of my income has come from that, and I'm very, very grateful to them letting me jump in when my good friend Damien was their narrator for like the first 1 million subscribers of the channel, and then he went off to do his own thing, so they needed a replacement. And then they reached out to me because I was recommended. I had already done some narration work for other large channels. Like I did some replacement work for his name is Shady Vox. He did a lot of narration work for Subs World.
Oh my goodness.
While Subs World was on. So whenever he needed to take a break or go somewhere, I would replace him, and we would make it a thing in the world where the original narrator is missing. Don't worry, we'll find him. And then I would read the video. So that was the first time I really discovered, maybe I could do, more generic, I guess, narration for a channel as my job. And then, Emkay came my way, and it's been sustaining the entirety of my life for the past almost 5 years.
Right. Dude, that's sick though, that's your source of income. Because I can imagine voice acting on itself. I'm sure a lot of people would want to do it full time, obviously, but it's a very risky kind of career to put all your eggs into, so to speak, I would imagine.
Oh, yeah. I mean, any kind of, they have a term for it, and they've had a term for it for a long time. The starving artist, the struggling actor, so to speak. That's just what it is. I mean, whether you're doing it with your voice or you're trying to get into movies or stage or whatever, that's what it is. 99% of the time. I know voice actors that I can name off the top of my head right now that everyone knows who they are. They seem to be in like every indie animated series. They're all over the place. They're beloved. And even they have had to tell people like, I'm not paying my rent with this job. You see me everywhere. I've got a bunch of followers online, but while I would love for it to, it's really, really hard. It's like the hardest thing in the world. I have a better chance of becoming a super world famous football player at my age than, say getting a gig like MLP running for 9 seasons of my life as full-time work, It's just really difficult to rely on.
No, I can imagine. And then like if you have something else like on the side or whatever, how do you make time for the things that you really, really want to do next to that thing? I mean, not that you don't want to do the MK thing, obviously, but I'm sure lots of people have more boring jobs or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, like any other job thing that you do to make money, I mean, it can get a little draining and all. But the thing is, because I've been doing this for so long, it does not take me long to do. So, I have to recognize that I'm in probably one of the most privileged positions ever for someone in this business right now. 99% of the people that are trying to do what I'm doing, what other people are doing. They got to clock in and go to work and do more important things than what I do, 40 hours a week at least. And I've been given the opportunity, the privilege to not clock in, live with my friends, not have to worry about all of that stuff, and also work like 2 hours a week right now. Stuff that I have to do, which allows me to basically have infinite time open. And I've been trying my best not to take that for granted.
Right. No, I can imagine. That makes me wonder though, because you have like a lot of voice stuff going on at the same time. Do you notice that it like strains your voice, like that you need to do special things to take care of that?
I have not yet encountered a session or anything where it's getting me real good. Generally, like the stuff I do or have done, like let's say for my work with Piemations voice-wise, it's all pretty short stuff. I don't have to be in the booth for hours at a time, but I think what helps me out in that regard is that I don't have to do a lot of screaming or anything like that. I never get as far as, say, Peter Cullen when he talks about some of his older sessions doing crazy work where he's making his throat bleed. I've never had to do anything like that, but I talk so much. I'm one of those people that never shuts up. So it's built up a resilience, I guess. But again, I've never been sitting in the booth being told to scream for 12 hours. I don't know what that would look like.
Depends on the job. I can imagine.
Really
I can imagine.
on what you're doing.
This is when you like have like a line or something. Would you say that it takes like a few tries to do that, or is it like a very quick process overall?
Well, it's all up to whoever's directing it, needing to get it done. With Emkay, I do a little bit of weird stuff here and there, but their whole thing is just do it in one go. You don't need to re-record anything. Doesn't really matter. Just you do you, whatever. But when it comes to any other projects, I always try my best to make sure, like, you sure? Like if I ever send them something and they come back to me with, that was great, perfect, awesome. I always I say back, are you sure? Do not worry. I can do it a billion more times. It doesn't matter.
Right.
But again, like they'll reference Piemations a lot because again, I live with them and do a lot of work with them. Yeah, so they will direct me in person, which is really, really helpful. I think that's
my goodness,
very important. So each line that we'll do, depending on what he wants to get out of it, it could be, I don't know, that line was perfect. You did it great, really rarely in one take, or we do it like 10 times or whatever, just in case. What really helps in that regard for me, though, is I'm also writing a lot of what I am doing.
Right.
So it just makes it a little bit quicker. I've been involved in the process so much. I get it. I think I know what we're going to do here. So cuts down on the amount of time it's going to take, do multiple takes of everything. But usually it's at least a few. If someone is just contacting me through email to do something and I'll send files back, I'll usually give them 3 separate takes of every line they send me. Just
smart.
in case.
Smart.
So that sort of covers the bases,
Right. I can imagine that's very different. Like, because like nowadays, a lot of people do voice acting gigs from a very long distance, I imagine. If there's someone really good on the other side of the country or something and they send stuff over manually, I can imagine that's a very different journey than, of course, the more classical, like having someone direct in person like you would see on television and stuff. I remember a few years ago I spoke to I'm trying to remember his name real quick. He voices Felix in Fire Emblem Three Houses, among a few other properties of the same nature. And he said that he absolutely needed to move to LA to, like get actual good gigs. Do you think that is still as relevant now, or is that a little weaker nowadays?
I could definitely see what he's talking about there. I mean, when it comes to acting of any kind, that's kind of the play. If you want it to be your everything, if you want to work in TV, if you want to work in movies or anything like that, you're probably going to need to be out there. As a point of reference, there's an actor who I always forget his name, Brett Iwan, I think. We both can't remember a name. Yeah, right. He's the current voice of one of the Mickey Mouse iterations, the one in all of the modern shorts, and he explains the story of just auditioning because, you know, like a lot of us, he, did a Mickey Mouse impression, and thought it, we're like, oh, whatever, they're doing an open casting call. I'll try out. And his story was like a year and a half of random callbacks until eventually they went, so yeah, you live in Kansas City, right?
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna need you in LA. We have to
Oh
have you
my
down here.
goodness.
This isn't a job offer, but are you willing to move to California to make this work if we choose you? And he's like, yeah. So sometimes you do have to.
Right.
I mean, I also thought about that myself. Like, do I move to LA? Do I move to Vancouver, where a way more animation work seems to be happening for sure?
Mm-hmm.
Seems like if it's animation here, it's Vancouver, but I don't think it's as relevant these days. I think with the advent of like content creation as a whole, I think after like 2010, stuff started to really change.
Yeah.
You can do remote sessions very easily. Like I all of my sessions for Poppy Playtime have been remote sessions through a website that they connect to my system at my desk or in my booth. And they record me with all their settings on their end. And just that's how we do it. It's very, very easy. Heck, you can do it over Discord now and whatnot.
What the heck?
I guess it really just depends on what you're going for. I'm sure that it made sense and was necessary for him to go there. But
yeah.
Like anybody can go to Best Buy and pick up a microphone that is more than fine. I have one radio ad and one television ad under my belt that were recorded on a Blue Yeti. No one cares.
I thought you were about to say Blue Snowball, but that.
Oh no! It was a barely better version of it. But you really can make anything work. As someone who's got a significantly more complex setup now, if I had to go back to the crummy old USB mic, no one's going to care. No one's going to notice because I know how to do that or know how to work the room now. It's so, I think I've used the term democratized over the years because like with creating YouTube videos or live streaming, companies have finally started to take the hint and create products for these people. And it's just so much easier to get into now. That's,
right.
It's become
like people build their own booths, right? Like at home and stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
Either they turn a closet into a booth, or they buy a big expensive one, or build their own entirely. It's just so much easier now than it was. I mean, when I started doing it, things were in the midst of changing over. From like, oh no, you gotta move to LA and be near big studios so that we can get good audio. And now, you can kind of do anything from a closet or just hold a blanket over your head with your $40 microphone, and that's perfectly fine.
Exactly. How do you start out, like, with your setup?
So I think my very first good microphone, and of course it's not really good now. I'm sure if I was able to go back and hear it, it doesn't sound great. But the first good microphone I had was a Yeti Pro.
Yeti Pro, okay.
Did not exist for very long. It was kind of a weird product, more expensive than a Blue Yeti, but it had like mini XLR, all this weird stuff. It was cool. I do wish I had kept it for collector's purposes, but yeah, that's how I did a lot of early stuff.
Okay, cool. Are you using like an XLR microphone?
Yeah, now, I mean, and for the last 10, 11 years, I've been exclusively on an XLR setup. So it's an SM7B microphone now with a cloud lifter and a microphone interface and all that. But that's just what's at my desk. We do, because Piemations is so much larger than when I first met him, we do have a giant recording booth and setup with all the trimmings that we would possibly need now. But that's, of course, a decade later of learning and all that stuff. So we do have the whole legit thing. Like when it comes to Poppy Playtime, I get in the booth. But for smaller things, I'll just do it right here. My Emkay work, I'm just sitting at my desk. I don't feel the need to get up and get the whole booth rolling for that.
Yeah, fair. For YouTube, it should be fine overall.
More than fine. 9 times out of 10, it's fine.
Right. Would you say with, because Piemations, obviously you've probably seen by now that I'm personally in the whole little pony corner, so I know how old the animation account as a whole is. Would you say that all of those years of work helped you like figure out what your voice identity is?
I would definitely say so. I think more so than like voice identity, it's helped me learn and realize that, and you'll see a lot of voice actors say this because it's true, and it can get kind of annoying when what we do is reduced to silly voice.
Yeah.
It's great to be able to do different voices and hide yourself. It's really cool to be able to do that, and sometimes that's what people are looking for. But over the years of working with them, it's been great because I don't need to. I can more than fit by just kind of like, I'm not really changing my voice a whole lot when I'm playing Foxy. That is not a huge change for me. I just raise him up a little bit and sound weird. You know, it's not a whole lot of difference. You don't have to be able to absolutely hide yourself. And it's taught me that it's not doing silly voices. You're still just an actor. You're still just acting. That's all it is. And again, sometimes they do need someone to be able to do a crazy voice for the character. But I mean, there are a lot of famous voices out there. John DiMaggio is a perfect example where he has the Bender voice.
Yes.
And then you hear him do the Bender voice in a shit ton of other stuff. It's not the exact voice, but it's natural to him to sound like that.
Yeah.
And works perfect. No one cares. It's great.
Some people have definitely, the range is very different, right? Like some people have that crazy, I barely recognize you. And some people just kind of have their own voice. Mostly.
Yeah. Some people absolutely blow my mind, like Michael Kovac.
Yes, Michael Kovac.
He blows my mind every time I hear him in something. It's
absolutely
crazy.
No, you're right.
Then there are some other folks that they're just themselves. I'm more myself than anything else. I love it when I get to do something weird and out of my range. Like I am also the voice of Pretzel in Pretzels on Piemations. That one's definitely, it's not a stretch. It's not difficult for me to do, but it's super different than, like, say, the police officer from Suction Cup Man, who's basically just me, but he's a little louder, you know?
Right.
But Pretzel,
he's a whole different world, you know?
Damn, okay.
So I like being able to do it. It's just, I don't see it anymore as I have to be able to do something crazy every single time. That's not what it is.
would you say that, like, because imagine maybe there's like someone who finds that they don't have the craziest range, you know, like would you say that they shouldn't have to worry from that alone?
I would say so. I mean, because it's not, I mean, obviously it's not just doing silly voices. You need to, and a lot of people ask me, what should I do to get better? My advice has always been practice enunciation and removing uhs and ums from your speech. I have tried really hard over the years to eliminate filler sounds and filler words to the best of my ability.
It's noticeable. Yeah.
They'll still be in there. They'll sneak in all the time because it's impossible not to say but just focusing on enunciation and whatnot, just learning how to speak a little more clearly normally, like when you're just talking, is a super, super big help. It's not incredibly important to rely on the silly voices you can do. It's more just being able to use your voice better than most people can. And I guess in that regard, I mean, not that most people sound bad or anything, but it's a tool that you need to get better at utilizing. Most people, you know, they're not voice actors. They don't care. Doesn't matter. No one sounds bad. But if you want to be able to sell yourself in that art form, you got to be able to use your tool to the absolute best of your ability.
Right.
So talking to yourself, getting better at enunciation, taking the time to pause rather than put filler sounds and words in there. Once again, just it's not all about the silly voices. Just do exercises. I talk to myself all the time. I sing to myself all the time when I'm alone.
Smart. Good practice.
Just good exercise. Yeah, exactly. It's just good practice for whatever.
Right. Would you say there's like a common misconception? Like you already mentioned how voice actors are just actors, but is there something else that you see going around or with beginners or something that you feel is just, you know, a little misled?
Maybe. I think, well, people, again, going back to the whole silly voices thing, people really, I guess the word would be not misappropriate. They sort of, they do. The general public will equate voice acting to being like Mel Blanc, being able to do 10,000 voices and sound effects. And that's what voice acting is. Maybe back then it was, for sure. It was very different 50, 60, 70, 80 years ago.
Absolutely.
Yeah. See, there was a right there. They sneak in all the time.
I mean, I don't even notice it. You definitely do, though.
It's definitely just. I actually saw a tweet regarding a movie recently. For the life of me, it was Rihanna playing Smurfette in the new trailer.
I've seen it.
Someone said, "Wow, she's not even voice acting," and of course, a lot of people will come to the defense of said person in the replies, which is nice because, of course, they're like, "What the hell are you talking about? What do you mean she's not voice acting?
Right.
She is acting with her voice right now. What would you have expected her to do? You don't have to transform yourself. Like, look at most actors you see in movies. You know, Benedict Cumberbatch is not transforming his physical appearance, and it's just him again. But he's embodying a different character. You would not require them to go crazy makeup body transformation. Sometimes they do, because sometimes it's what they want vision-wise.
Right.
But 9 times out of 10, you're going to see that movie and you're like, yeah, I'm going because it's the same guy again, and I like this guy right now. I'm happy. It's like Timothée Chalamet. He doesn't look any different in Dune than he does when he's hosting SNL. He's just
you're right.
acting. It just comes down to, yes, for the love of God, it's not doing a SpongeBob impression. It's not being able to imitate, even though that is a good exercise as well.
Right.
You know, when many years ago when I was starting, there was this video I watched. I can't remember who it was from, but they had mentioned, yeah, I'm a casting director. I work with voice actors all the time. And a lot of them will send in a reel where they're doing a bunch of impressions, or at least throw like a SpongeBob in there or something like that. I got to tell you, don't do that. I mean, it's great for social media, but don't send me that, because why would I need your SpongeBob impression when I can go and get SpongeBob?
Yeah.
You know, it's, again, great practice. It's fun to see people do. And don't get me wrong, there is nothing wrong with impressions at all. There are people that do amazing work because they're really good at impressions. Like Josh Robert Thompson, I believe is his name, who was the co-host of the Late Late Show with Craig Ferguson for years, played his co-host, the weird robot skeleton man. His whole job was doing impressions. It was great.
Oh my goodness.
But getting the fundamentals down first was always important.
Right.
Can you act? That's what you should be worrying about first, I guess.
Yeah, no, I see what you mean. No, I feel
like stray from the topic of the question.
You're fine.
I feel like I just don't answer the question.
No. The whole like just talking about what you've seen and what you think and all those things. That's exactly what the podcast is about. So no worries there. Something that comes to mind in my case immediately is, for lack of a better term, the Discord voice actor, which is someone who will, I don't know, be playing a video game or something, and they have this kind of over dramatic, kind of too exaggerated kind of voice, and they think they're doing fantastic because no one's going to tell them. You know, there's no expert in the area, in the call or whatever, that's going to point things out to them. Is there any specific way of practicing you would recommend to those kinds of people?
I think the best way of practicing is being directed. And that's the scariest thing, that like, I feel like 90% of folks online that are doing it now or getting into it for one reason or another, they haven't been directed by anybody yet. They haven't had to do it in front of people and then be told, no, that was wrong. I need you to do it like this. Yeah. It's nerve-wracking. It's horrifying. And you're going to feel embarrassed the first 5,000 times you do it. But it can't matter. There's got to be a point where you're like, you know what? Doesn't matter. This is what I want to do. This is where I want to be. Being directed, whether that's like having like a friend who's making an animation or a little movie or whatever, it's really important to find a way to get somebody to tell you, no, less that, more this, even if it's incredibly vague direction. Like, we have this saying that we've started using because we saw it as a joke many years ago and it made us laugh really hard, but we use it all the time now. If we want like a take that's completely different to everything that we've been doing, Mike will tell me, all right, now do one purple. Do one more purple, you know? Just sort of a random thing where it's not any specific direction. It's more of, hey, can you just do it really different? Because sometimes we can do, I've heard a lot where we'll do multiple takes, and for some strange reason, I or whoever else will do like 3 takes in a row that sound almost identical, even though they're meant to be different, with different inflection, energy, whatever. So sometimes you just gotta you got to knock yourself out a little bit of that really, really thick bubble comfort zone.
Yeah.
Because I will tell you, the first time I had to do any of my voice work in front of people, and not literally, it was on a Skype call, but doing it with them there, actively listening, most horrifying thing, I was not ready. Just adrenaline. I was freaking the hell out, you know?
Yeah.
It's very scary, but you got to do it. You got to find a way to do it.
Exactly. I think you're spot on, I think, because I imagine a lot of these people just don't have anyone pointing anything out to them at all whatsoever. But then they, like an artist in school, right? If you are drawing in class or whatever for funsies, and everyone's like, oh, your art's so amazing, you should do this and that. And then you go to art school and everyone is like fantastic, like that kind of, I can imagine imagine it's the same with artists where it's like a bit of a struggle with like, is ego the right word? I don't know. And you're like, yeah,
potentially, I guess, but it's not the fault of the artist because, similar thing happened with me as well, where, I thought I was, pretty good in my school, in my high school. It's just a tiny little bubble. Sure, people will gas you up. They'll get really interested in what you're doing, even though what you're doing necessarily isn't very impressive to the wide world outside of that bubble. And when I left, moved, and started really trying to pursue it, you have to have a bit of ego death and understand that you've got a long way to go. And I still have a long way to go. Right. I've got such a long way to go. I do not think of myself as better than anyone, and never will.
That's a good outlook.
In any regard.
Right.
It's better, in the long run. But it's kind of hard to do. You got to find people that are willing to give you that criticism to get better, that aren't jerks about it, that will, kill your enthusiasm for it.
Yeah.
There is such a thing as too much criticism. And it's also really hard to find those people because, like, your friend group, how are they going to help you get better at voice acting? They don't know anything about it. How are they going to help you? But I don't know. Do they watch cartoons? Do they watch animated movies? I mean, think about that. They could probably base some criticism off of how they've enjoyed people's performances in those movies and go, you're being a little crazy right now. Why don't you, take it down 2 levels? Even if it is a direction that is do it more purple, you got to be able to interpret that in some way as a performer, I suppose.
Be flexible, I guess. Yeah. Would you say that, like, having an outlook of I always want to keep growing, I always want to try to become better is like just flawless, or is there a downside to that as well?
Well, in that mindset, I do think it's a great mindset to have, but in that mindset, you're also going to be an awful critic with yourself.
Right.
As with any art form, we are our own worst critics. We're always going to be unsatisfied. But I've heard the sentiment before of, why don't you love yourself for what you are currently doing, not what you could be doing? Don't worry about, landing on the moon. That's why in the world would you be doing that? Look at what you're doing right now. And it's good to be able to understand, take stock of your surroundings and go, no, I'm in a pretty crazy spot. This is insane. Is this where I want to be? No, but I have gotten 1,000 times better the last 10 years, and I've moved mountains to be who I am now and where I am now. It's important to be able to recognize that while also understanding you will never be perfect. You are never going to be the best. That doesn't really exist, in my opinion, the best. Just because someone is, getting all the work doesn't mean that they're the best choice for everything, right?
It's about the like way of saying it to yourself as well, I imagine, because some people really sink into that feeling, like you say. Now here's something that I also find really interesting, because nowadays there's obviously a lot of people on the internet that do voice acting as a little gig or next to their job or whatever. And there's portfolios everywhere, right? Like pinned on profiles or whatever. But is there maybe a different way you would recommend people put themselves out there except for those kinds of portfolio videos?
I mean, I do the same thing. I'll put up visual reels and stuff like that. Over the years, I've done it a lot less. I think I've just been very lazy the last few years. That's just me personally, though. I'm not sure what else you really could do in the day and age of the internet and how it has caused an explosion in interest in this particular art form. I'm not really sure the best way to go about it. I mean, there's a lot of people will ask me, they'll get down to the nitty gritty. I mean, they'll ask for, advice on how to get better at doing it. But
Mm-hmm.
when they get down to what's really important in their mind at the time is, okay, how do I go make money? That's impossible to
No,
answer
fair.
because there's a billion different places you can go. There's a billion different ways you can go about it. I've been incredibly lucky. It's
Right.
not because I'm more talented than anyone. It's because I've been in the right place at the right time. And that is always, unfortunately, the performer's answer.
Right.
It's always.
You do sometimes you do hear like those weird little unique ones where I believe recently Baldwin is his name, right? The Harley Sawyer guy. That he did like a TikTok video or something where he's like voicing over cat videos, and then someone saw that, or they got in touch that way or something like that.
Mhm.
Do you think that is, if you enjoy those things, that is something to put energy into?
Oh, for sure. If you're my whole thing over the years is you need to be doing these things if you enjoy them, if they're fun to you,
Yeah.
if they, give you that dopamine that you've been chasing, whether you want to draw or edit videos or, take photographs, whatever it is, it shouldn't be at the forefront of your mind, even though it is necessary at a certain point to keep doing it. Shouldn't be at the forefront of your mind that it's just money as a side gig. I've seen a lot of people that go into it going, well, I'm just going to do it because it's got to be an easy way to make money on the side. If you go into it thinking of it that way, you're not going to perform very well.
Right. No. Yeah, I can imagine. Oh gosh.
Yeah, that goes back to the always improving
Right.
thing. You always want to be improving because you love doing it and you simply want to get better at doing it, whatever that it is.
Yeah. I can imagine nowadays there's plenty of ways to practice, put yourself out there in that way, and making fun content can definitely be a part of that, even if it's, a little silly on its own. It
Yeah.
can still get you places, I imagine.
You can't necessarily rely on external projects that
Mhm.
you're not doing yourself. That's why a lot of people they'll also get into, I don't know, animation, or again, they'll do dubbing of stuff because they
Right.
just love to do it. And then bam, someone recruits you because we found a really cool guy. Like, as a perfect example, I want to see really quick. You're going to Google him really fast to see if he's still, okay. Yeah, he's still around. Cool. Awesome. I remember many, many years ago. Okay. I keep saying that. It's not really many, many years ago. It was like 2013,
Time
2014,
flies.
where there was
that
a
is a long
guy,
time ago.
his name is Jake Fushi. And he made a video on his YouTube channel where he was doing the movie trailer voice. And it was awesome.
Right.
I was doing the same thing, like the whole Minecraft movie trailer thing that I was talking about.
Yeah.
I was sick, and my friends were like, whoa, you can do a really good movie guy voice. I mean, I can do it now without being sick. But back then, I had to be sick. But he uploaded that video around the same time I was doing that. I was like, oh, it's really cool. And then he got invited on Ellen, and now he's a career voice actor. He does all kinds of stuff.
Wow.
So just, even if it's a video about, I'm going to do some voice acting, do it. Why not? That worked out great for him. It's not a guarantee. Nothing ever is. But why not? Just do it.
Right. If you like
9
doing it,
times
then
out of
take a
10.
shot. Yeah.
Yeah. It's hard to think about, like with voice actor guys, it's really hard to think about, well, what can I make that surrounds my voice? I mean, sure, you could do gameplay. You could do videos like he did. You could do
Mhm.
dubbing on TikTok, whatever it is.
Oh, right.
There's so many different ways to put yourself out there. It doesn't have to be specifically, I'm going to go to Casting Call Club and audition for everything, which you should do too. Take a look at that stuff and, be willing to do some stuff for free. If you're just starting out, you're not worth $250 an hour yet. That's much later, right? So
Right. How do those casting calls even like go out? Like, where do people find those?
Well, like I mentioned, there are a lot of websites. Like for my radio ad, that was just through a friend who had a little production company of his own. But when it came to the TV ad, there was a website that I used for a very brief time called it used to be called Voice Bunny. Now it's just called Bunny Studio. I don't know what they're up to these days, but yeah, hire voice actors and voiceover services. That was their specialty. And I created an account there. This was back in, it must have been 2014, 2013, maybe at the time. And you could just audition for stuff. And I auditioned for this. It was just a TV commercial for a grilled cheese restaurant. Real neat, whatever. They liked me. They picked me. I got paid $20 for the whole commercial. And they even invited me back for a Halloween version of the ad that I've never seen. Yeah. So sometimes it's going to feel kind of crappy going like, I'll give you $20 for your, 2 hours of work. But that's unfortunately how it's going to be. But there's plenty of places you can find open calls, whether they're paid or not, to put your best foot forward. Again, none of them are guaranteed, obviously, because they're auditions, but they're also not even guaranteed to get made. And the unfortunate thing is the project on Casting Call Club may not even choose somebody from Casting Call Club. They might have something on several other websites and go, well, not going to finish it on this website. We found somebody better over here.
True, right.
Just throw a wide net.
yeah. No, you're totally right, I think. Is it, so a little different question then. People around you that are completely outside of this field, right? Like, I don't know, maybe family, friends, or whatever. How do they react to you doing this in the first place?
Well, I mean, they definitely didn't have negative feelings towards any voice acting work. I guess, your parents might always have a little bit of a panic moment when you tell them, I want to make a living with something that's nearly impossible to make a living doing. I'm going to be a movie star. Oh, honey, that is awesome. And I will root for you every step of the way, but make sure that you're set first.
Right.
It's that generic movie concern that parents all have. Even if they're incredibly supportive, they are a little scared. But none of them were ever, they never thought negatively. I think, even though they don't necessarily get it because it's not their interest. They are, of course, very supportive. And I do distinctly remember when the first Poppy Playtime game came out, the first chapter. I think that right there was the first time I had ever really seen everyone give a crap about what I was doing all of a sudden.
Oh my God.
Maybe because I think it was mainly because all of their favorite YouTubers were playing the game, and I was just getting message after message from friends and family going, was that you? That was you, right? It was very fun. It was my canon moment at the time, I guess. Like, oh shoot, okay, this is the reaction that I've been looking for from my friends and family for so long. Like, holy crap,
sweet.
This is what you wanted to do? Okay, I think they misunderstood and maybe thought, well, you're just doing stuff on YouTube. Like, that's cool and all, but it's kind of like, when's it going to be on TV? When am I
yeah.
Or,
YouTube just doesn't feel real, like, as a real job to a lot of people still, of course.
Which is insane, right? Considering that YouTube and Google together have paid out like $90 billion or something crazy like that to creators. And it is the second largest website in like human history. And it is, in some ways, I mean, it's definitely by far the largest streaming service that will ever exist, as we know it, for sure. And for all of YouTube's fault, it's the best I think we'll ever see. The best example we'll ever see of anyone can do anything at any time. And if you're lucky, oops, you're a millionaire now and you're super famous for doing it. That's the really, really impossible part, though. Again, that just goes back to you cannot expect it. And that is not why you should be doing it.
Right. Is it that you notice, like, because you mentioned getting like messages for your switch to like a video game voice actor. Are you very involved in like the like fan aspect of it?
Not as much as I'd like to be. I mean, whenever a new chapter comes out, I see an influx of people going, wait a minute, that was you, and stuff like that. And then I try to sort of capitalize on that and let people know, yes, that is indeed me. If you like what I do, you should follow me. Like today, I'm going to film a TikTok where I do Leith Pierre's little monologue at the end of chapter 4, stuff like that. Every chapter, something new comes my way. And I do try to get more involved. I don't know. I do so many other things I forget.
Fair. Because I definitely notice, obviously, it's a very lively space. I wouldn't say I'm super active in it or anything, but it is definitely lots of praise, I feel like, for the voice actors in the video game sphere. Because they, especially in this very specific case, right, where the only thing they have is the voice, right, of a character. So it's a very, very important task to like bring them to life, I imagine. Did you get like more offers as well after that role, or?
Oh, I usually see an influx of people specifically wanting me to do the voice from the game, even though I'm fairly certain that I'm not allowed to do that. So I do get a lot of people going, hey, can you be Leith Pierre for this or that? I'm like, I really can't, unfortunately. Maybe in the far future when the series is over and they don't really care that much anymore, they might let me. But, I get it. I totally understand where they would be coming from with like, no, he's part of the game right now.
It's risky.
People, it's not exactly, that's another thing is if you do get like offers from people, don't expect it to be the offer you've been waiting for. It's just, I get a lot of people that want like, hey, I've got a school assignment. I'm not, I don't have a budget or anything, but I'm working on a school assignment. Would you be willing to do that? And I do try my best to set aside time to just do it because what's wrong with having some practice again? You could never have enough practice. So it may not be what you were expecting or dreaming of, but take anything that comes in seriously, even if it's a kid in school who's just doing a project or someone that's working on a game. Like I do have a little indie developer who's making a game that is amazing in concept, and I can't wait to see him continue doing it about pizza delivery guy parkour game. It's a hilarious concept. Okay. I can't wait to see how he goes down the line with that one. It's going to be very fun.
Interesting.
But just make sure you're paying attention to all of them. It's not going to be the one that's paying you, but again, that's just not the point.
Yeah. It's practice, right? So may as well.
It's practice, and that's just a few more people that hear you. If you can think about it that way, it's just another place for your presence to be somewhere.
A completely different question, but is there any thing you see being advised by people in your field to newbies that you wouldn't agree with personally?
Nothing I've seen, no. Everyone, we all have different bits of advice to give because we've all had a completely different experience. I know that another voice actor that I really look up to, and he's super awesome, is Kellen Goff. He has a very different set of like the bits of advice that I completely agree with. Another voice actor that I actually, funnily enough, in 2023, I believe I talked to him on the phone. His name is Lee Toker. He is one of the MLP voice actors who played, I believe, Snips from the show.
Right.
So he had a whole different set as well. They all have completely different, because he's from like a different era of voice acting as well, before the internet turned it into something that's way more accessible for everybody.
Yeah.
It is interesting to see. Everyone has a completely different take or bits of advice on what you should be doing. And I try not to give too much advice because like many people, I don't see myself as any form of success at this point. I know I've probably got 20 more years before I'd go, yeah, I think I'm doing pretty good. But
fair.
That's why I'm more generic. I'm more like just work on your enunciation and your vocal control. Not saying that you have to have like perfect pitch. I don't have perfect pitch or anything like that, but can you yell really loud?
Right.
Can you do that character real quiet? Those are things that no one really thinks about. And another thing that I didn't realize is it's very easy to completely forget how to do a character that you've done before. It has happened to me in the past where I've voiced him, and then a couple months later we go back and he needs to say something different, and I go, oh my gosh, I can't do it. I have no idea how I did it before. So many little things that you got to keep in mind as you go. It sucks.
I can imagine. Oh my
it doesn't really. It's just good fun. But
yeah.
Anybody give
just stress
advice.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When someone is looking for a start somewhere, like anywhere, they have nothing, right? Like no tech, no booth, no bits, no to like voice in and whatever. Like, is there one thing you would say focus on this first?
I'm not really 100% sure. I mean, if you've got a blanket, you've got a booth. If you've got a microphone, you're 1,000 steps ahead of everyone else who's thinking about starting it.
Right.
Really, you can start with almost nothing. Truly, in my experience, it does not require a whole lot at all. Because I understand, and I know that I'm trying to think back on when I had nothing, or I perceived myself as having nothing. I guess my desperation to be good at it and do more of it, no such thing as I can't do it. Like, I'm going to do it. We're gonna do it. If I have to use my gaming headset microphone or a rock band mic and a duvet, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna figure out a way to do it. And then, of course, I guess the other hard part is, okay, now what do I do? That's why I started doing the gaming videos in the first place. It really throws your voice out there a lot more. It may not be voice acting, but someone could hear that and go, okay, he's got a sound or she's got a sound kind of like that. You know, you've definitely heard my voice in places that are not voice acting centric, like any bits of the old Gmod days.
Yeah.
In particular, like there's one line that stands out that a lot of people threw around a lot, which is, what does it mean when it says launch the train? Not voice acting related at all, but it is me yelling a silly thing. So many things, just like play some video games with friends. It doesn't have to specifically center around voice acting, but just having people hear you.
Yeah.
They'll keep you in mind. You never know.
I feel like the shamelessness is also really beneficial because something like, I'm no expert obviously, but something I feel like newer people are really scared of doing is, you know, really opening their mouths to really go all out, right? Like if a character's like screaming in agony or something, a lot of them seem really kind of scared to really go the long way to make that sound convincing, so to speak. So I can imagine being a little, you know, expressive, even if it's like a content creator type thing, can help people find their comfort with their voice. Did you have that face at any point, perhaps?
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like I said, the first time I got into a call with people that were expecting me to do what I do in front of them, of course I panicked. I did it, but I was panicking. You really have to let go of, there is no embarrassment. There can't be. It doesn't matter what you're doing. If this is something you want to do, you got to be silly.
Mm-hmm.
And there's still plenty of times where I'm like, you want me to say that? That's weird. Okay. Like we're recording music in the house and I've been doing singing for the first time in front of people. I don't do that, even though I would like to. It's really helped me open up even more because singing is, for 99% of us, it's like the most vulnerable thing that we'll do, I guess, in front of anybody else is really try to sing because we're all very critical of singing for one reason or another.
Yeah.
So that's been helping a lot. You really do have to be comfortable with embarrassing yourself. And remember that that's not really what you're doing. When you're sitting in front of a director and 3 sound engineers or something like that, even if you do something silly, they don't really give a crap.
Yeah.
They don't care. What they're there to do is get it done so that the project can move forward. You're not embarrassing yourself like at the lunch table. This is work time.
No, you're right.
It sounds obvious enough, but it's not the same thing at all. Where you are and what you're doing, this is your work right now. And that should and it's brought me comfort where I'm like, oh, even if I am being silly, I'm just doing what I'm supposed to be doing. This is great. Now I get to be a weirdo. I'm expected to be a weirdo right now. That's what they hired me for, is to be silly. So no big deal. That initially freaked me out, but then eventually once I started seeing it that way, it started to take some of the pressure off. Like, sure, this might be an awkward thing, but I get paid to do the awkward thing. Hell yeah, that's kind of awesome. Okay, let's do it and be weird. And yeah, just get a lot more comfortable with yourself. I know a lot of people, I think the biggest thing at first is when you hear your own voice. Because we hear it differently in our heads than we do as it's recorded. And everybody on the planet will go, ugh, that's what I sound like, me included. Hated it. But after so many years of doing it, I now sound in my head like I do in recordings. It sounds identical to me.
Wow,
which is great and very helpful to know what it is that I sound like now because I've heard myself so much.
Yeah. That sounds great.
Yeah,
actually.
There's so many things to get comfortable with, but just know that if you go all the way, so to speak, you're going to have that realization of, wait, I get to be the silly weirdo. I get to be the class clown, but now it's just kind of like my job. That's really cool. And I think that will take the pressure off in a lot of ways.
Yeah. Overcoming shame seems like a really big part of it. Well, I have really one final actual question for you, which is if someone is currently listening and they are interested in doing voice work, what would you say to them?
I would say just do it. You will find a way to do it. Right. One way or another, if it's something you truly believe you want to do as a career or even just as like a little hobby, even if you just want it to be a hobby, your artistic endeavors on the side where you don't expect it to pay the rent someday or anything like that, you will find a way to do it, whether that's making gameplay videos or TikToks where you are. I know it goes kind of against what I was saying earlier about impressions. Impressions are good. They're fun to do. And if you got a good one, why not throw that up? Because maybe you could turn that into an original voice or something that someone wants.
Right.
Do all of it. I think someone a while back asked me a similar question. I think it was at what point would you call yourself a voice actor? And I likened it to an interview that James Cameron did many, many years ago. He said, you may not like this answer, but just start calling yourself one, because you are. You know, so people ask me all the time, how do I become a director? What do I got to do to become a director? And he said, well, start directing. You know, it's kind of a dumb answer. It's sort of like a, well, duh, but no, really.
No, yeah, it's true.
It doesn't matter what you're doing. Just, you got to do it though. Sure. At first, it's going to be really difficult. You're going to go, well, what the hell do? I don't have friends that are doing stuff that's voice acting centric, but like what I was talking about before, start making gameplay videos, start learning to animate yourself, do animatics, do comic dubs, do dubs of TV or whatever. It's fun, and you never know what you could get out of it.
Yeah.
But the hardest part of any journey is starting it. It is the most difficult part. Everyone will tell you that, but one way or another, you have got to start. It doesn't matter how. It's just gotta.
Right. No, I think you're spot on. Well, Robin, thank you so much for appearing on the Creative Angles podcast. Is there anyone or anything that you'd like to shout out at the end of this?
I mean, nothing in particular that I have going on. A lot of my projects are very much under wraps with friends at the moment, but you'll be seeing a lot more coming down the line. September, October, I'm going to be helping shoot a film, or hopefully I'll be helping shoot a film. And if you are interested in seeing me in said film, because I will have a very tiny little cameo part in it, you could check out the movie called Meat Man on Indiegogo. It's currently doing a campaign. It's a horror comedy done by YouTubers from a completely different era, and they make great films. So if you want to support a movie that you'll probably get to see me at least say one word in, you should go and check it out. And who knows, maybe it'll be even better and they'll let me get killed by an evil guy on camera. Who knows? We'll see. We'll find out soon enough. But other than that, I don't have a whole lot going on at the moment.
Well, great. Sounds like a good shout out anyway. Well, thank you so much again for being on the podcast.
And thank you for inviting me. It's always fun.
You're very welcome. Dear listener, stay awesome, stay creative, and we'll see you next time.